Today our topic is wound healing and repair, right? So there will be three terms: repair, regeneration and healing. So our entire lecture will focus on these three terms, right? So what do we need to know? We need to know the definition. That is, what is the meaning of these three terms? We need to know their differences and the mechanism. That is how these processes are occurring, right? The first half, we will talk about repair and regeneration. We must know about granulation tissue, which is the hallmark of the wound healing. In the second half, we will talk about the different healing mechanisms, primary intention, secondary intention, their differences, the factors affecting healing, the disorders of healing, and we will end with fracture healing, okay? So let's do a background induction, okay? So let's first talk about Mr. A. So Mr. A had severe pain abdomen. It began in the umbilical region and then it was complained in the right iliac fossa. He had vomiting, nausea, low-grade fever. So what do you think it happened? What was the diagnosis? In this case, pain in right iliac fossa, anybody? So maybe he was diagnosed as acute appendicitis, okay? So he presented to a hospital and an able surgeon did the surgery, right? Next we come to poor Mr. B, okay? So poor Mr. B, he had a severe accident, okay? So you can see the condition of his car. You know, you can expect that he will have greater injury, maybe a fracture of a bone or two. So one thing we can understand is that in these two cases, so here also he had a surgery which was performed in the operation theatre by an able surgeon under aseptic conditions. And here, you know, you expect the wound to be deeper, greater damage, right? So one thing we can understand is that the healing process in these two cases will be same or different? Same. Actate, this is, yeah, it's supposed to be different, right? Now let's come to this father-son duo, okay? So here what happened is that the son gave a part of his liver to the father, right? So here also, you know, you expect the liver to regenerate itself, right? So they both will survive. This is a living organ donor, right? So our class today will deal upon these things. What is happening at the cellular level in these three cases, right? So let's do a quick overview of the terms. So like I said, our lecture will deal with three terms, right? The first term is healing. So healing is the body's response to injury in an attempt to restore normal structure and function. So healing is like a mechanic, okay? So you have defect in your fridge, in your car, in your laptop. You go and see a mechanic who repairs the defect for you. So our healing process is the body's response to injury to restore your normal structure and function. It can occur by two processes, repair or regeneration. Regeneration is the process in which the lost tissues is replaced by tissue of similar type and it results in complete restoration of the lost or damaged tissue. Repair, on the other hand, is the process in which the lost or damaged tissue is replaced by fibrous tissue or scar, right? It is a response that patches rather than restores a tissue. So in the new edition of Robbins, they have simplified it. So they have more or less, you know, like exchanged repair and healing and has said that it can be either by regeneration or repair by scarring. So they have emphasized on the point scar. So, you know, you have this door here. So if by any chance there is an injury and this door is completely broken, so what can happen? We can replace the door by a door. তাহলে কি হবে, যেরকম ছিল সেরকমই হয়ে যাচ্ছে. So that will be part of regeneration. So complete restoration and replacement by tissue of similar type. But you know, if the damage is very severe and this door এমনই ভেঙে গেছে যে it needs time, so কাজ চালানোর জন্য একটা পর্দা দিয়ে ঢেকে দিলে, so the damage is patched, এই যে যে গ্যাপটা হয়েছিল, you can shut the gap with a porda, but the complete restoration is not happening. The porda here is your scar tissue or the fibrous tissue, right? So factors deciding the pattern of healing. This was asked one time, a past question. So in the cell injury class also I had said that your response to injury will depend upon you, that is your ability to handle the injury. Second, it will also depend upon the strength of the infectious or injurious agent, right? And another thing is that, your response to injury and your healing will be determined by your environment. If you are hurt, if you are wounded, you expect that you will recover fast if you have a loving and caring environment, right? Who will care for you, who will nurture you in your bad times, right? So at the cellular level, you is the tissue concerned here. The injurious agent, obviously the strength and duration of the injurious agent. So if you have a mild superficial injury, so complete regeneration, complete restoration is possible, right? But on the other hand, if a severe injury is happening, you can see that the basement membrane is breached. You can see that these two wounds, they are different, okay? This is quite a mild superficial injury, and this is a very deep and severe injury. So in that case, healing will occur by scar formation. So this case, there is regeneration, almost identical to the normal tissue. But here the defect that was created, that has been breached, but there is formation of something else, which is your scar tissue, right? So the factors which will be deciding the pattern of healing, the tissue, we are concerned regarding the proliferative capacity of the tissue, the extent of tissue injury. So if you have a mild injury of a short duration, there is chance of regeneration. While if you have a severe, chronic, persistent, a bad injury, then there is healing by formation of fibrous tissue and scar. And like I said, your healing will be determined by your microenvironment. So the growth factors and extracellular matrix signals will also facilitate or, promote your healing and decide your healing pattern, right? So first, let's talk about the tissue, okay? This has been a question which was once asked in theory. Classification of tissues based on proliferative capacity of cells. So there are three types of cells. First, labile tissue, next permanent tissue, next stable tissue. This classification has been determined by the intrinsic proliferative capacity of the tissues, right? So one by one, labile tissues, the L in labile stands for lost and the A stands for appears. So this is the tissue which is constantly getting lost, but at the same time, by magic, it comes back. So what is the thing that gives them the power, that gives them this magic? It is the tissue stem cells and the proliferation of the residual cells, okay? So labile tissue, these are constantly being lost, but at the same time they are being replaced, so they can multiply throughout life under normal physiological condition. So you eat something, okay? We are constantly eating, so mucosa of your oral cavity, it is constantly shred, right? Female menstrual cycle every month, so you can expect shredding of the epithelium, but they are constantly being replaced, right? So labile tissues. Next, permanent tissues. So permanent tissue is like being in your first love. So you think this is the first and this is the permanent, right? So these are terminally differentiated. They put a full stop to the differentiation. This is it. So they lose their ability to proliferate around birth. So obviously in this case, if you're heartbroken, the scar remains throughout life, right? So it causes an irreversible tissue injury and there is repair by scarring. The scars remain, right? So your brain and your cardiac muscles, okay? So like I said in the cell injury class as well, so they cannot survive hypoxia for a very long duration. Why? Because these are permanent tissues. Next, stable tissues. The S in stable stands for smart. Why are they smart? Because of another S, which is they sleep. So stable tissues are your organs which sleep, that is they remain in the G0 phase of cell cycle, but they are smart tissues, okay? So when there is an injurious stimuli, they are waken up from their sleep by their friends. Who are their friends? The local growth factors and other ECM matrix signal. ECM means extracellular matrix, right? So these tissues such as your liver, your kidney, your pancreas, so they are remaining in the G0 phase of cell cycle, but they have the capacity to divide in response to injury or loss of tissue. So they have a limited capacity to regenerate themselves. They does it when they are stimulated by local production of growth factors and interaction of cells with the matrix, right? So a quick revision, what do you think the answers will be? Liver is an example of cardiac muscle and your epithelium is an example of labile tissue, okay? So this was the easy part. Now we come to regeneration. So regeneration, I've already told you the definition. It is the complex orderly process where we replace the damaged components of the tissues. The goal is to restore the tissue to its normal, the original state, right? So the mechanism I have said, it is the stem cells and also the proliferation of cells that survive the injury and retain their capacity to proliferate. So it is seen most cases where there is superficial mild injury, right? So some normal cells remain that can proliferate to get you back to normalcy. The classic example is liver regeneration. So 90% of the liver can be regenerated by proliferation of the remaining hepatocytes. So basically that is why, even living donor liver transplantation is very in. Repopulation from progenitor cells is also very important. And like I said, this liver, it sleeps, right? It needs to be awakened by growth factors. What are the growth factors that help the liver to regenerate? Interleukin 6, hepatocyte growth factor, and TGF alpha. The more you can remember these, the better is for you because questions are asked, even in theory, and also this is the age of MCQs, so it can be asked, right? So if you followed it, what do you think the answer will be? Hepatocyte growth factor is HGF, okay? So answer will be both of the above. So you need to read between the lines, okay? This one. And, a question is asked based on these. Very potential questions are asked. So now we come to repair. So repair is by connective tissue deposition, that is scarring or fibrosis. So like I said, it is like applying a band-aid to your wound. এখানে একটা পর্দা লাগিয়ে দিলে যেটা বলছিলাম, complete restoration হচ্ছে না, but you can patch the defect, right? So repair is by scar formation is the process where the injured tissues that are incapable of complete restitution or the supporting structures of the tissue are severely damaged. So in that case, wound healing will be by repair by connective tissue, that is wound healing will be by repair by scar formation. So it is a response that patches your defect rather than complete restoration, and it provides enough structural stability so that the injured tissue is able to function. So you need to know the process of repair by connective tissue. So first what happens is, I said that this door is completely broken. So who will understand that it is broken? Us, because we are present here, we are present in abundance here. So here also, when there is a tissue injury, the first cells to respond will be the cells that is present in abundance in your blood. What are those cells? The inflammatory cells, right? The neutrophils, the most common, the most prevalent granulocytes, WBCs. Next, what happens? So, amra dekhe, we will inform someone who is in charge, right? Our guardian of this department. Then he will call the mechanic and get the door fixed, right? So at the cellular level, what happens is that the injury or the damage is sensed by the inflammatory cells. They bring upon the guardian, which is your granulation tissue. And ultimately, what happens is that he will call the mechanic, right? What is the mechanic who will give the porda? That is, in this case, it is the scar tissue or the fibrous tissue, right? Now, the inflammation begins within 24 hours of injury. Gradually, you call for fibroblasts, endothelial cell proliferation, and by the 3 to 5 days, the granulation tissue, the guardian tissue of wound healing, the hallmark of wound healing appears, right? The short note on granulation tissue is very important. This is one thing you must remember, that the hallmark of wound healing is key G for granulation tissue. Okay, this is the take home, the one line you must remember from this class. So granulation tissue is a specialized, unique type of tissue, which is your characteristic, that is the hallmark of healing wounds. Grossly, it has this pink, fleshy, soft granular appearance just below the skin, and it progressively invades the site of injury. Jokhoni amader kono hate phate chire mane trauma hoy, I think we have all seen this, right? So microscopically, granulation tissue consists of proliferating fibroblast, small leaky blood vessels, which are also responsible for the edema, which is often seen surrounding the granulation tissue. You have the loose connective tissue, which surrounds the new blood vessels or the capillaries, and there is scattered chronic inflammatory cells. Chronic inflammatory cells include neutrophils. No, it includes lymphocytes and macrophages, right? So grossly, it appears like this pink tissue. The name is derived from this gross appearance. And microscopically, you need to write these 4 points. And also you need to write that it appears between day 3 to day 5 of wound healing, right? And the amount of granulation tissue formed depends upon the size of the tissue defect created by the wound and also the intensity of inflammation. So if you have a short note on granulation tissue, it is important to write the answer properly. This is a schematic diagram. So if you wish, you can add the diagram. You can see that there are these vessels, the inflammatory cells and fibroblasts. There are 3 phases which are observed in granulation tissue formation: phase of inflammation, phase of clearance, and phase of angiogenesis, that is blood vessels, new blood vessel formation, and fibrogenesis, fibroblast proliferation. Now I asked a student that, what is the hallmark of wound healing? Then he said granuloma. Is he right or is he wrong? Wrong, right? So don't confuse the 2 G's, okay? Granuloma and granulation tissue, these 2 things are different. So this statement, granuloma and granulation tissue are not the same. Is it true or is it false? Okay, so we must keep this in mind, that granuloma is a very favorite of pathologists. It is always asked, what is granuloma, what is granuloma? But don't confuse between the 2, right? They are not the same. So moving on, what are the components of connective tissue repair? So connective tissue, to repair you need new blood vessels. What is the process of formation of new blood vessels from pre-existing blood vessels? It is angiogenesis, genesis of blood vessels. So it is essential to supply nutrients and oxygen to support the repair process. A long list of growth factors and all promote this process. You need to know about VEGF, vascular endothelial cell growth factors, platelet derived growth factor, TGF beta, basic fibroblast growth factor, and all these things. All of this is responsible for the new blood vessel formation, right? Then you have fibroblast. The migration and proliferation is stimulated by fibroblast growth factors. You have collagen. The fibrils begin to appear by around the 6th day. And you have connective tissue remodeling. So the immature connective tissue has to be remodeled to form the mature connective tissue, and also the formation of inactive looking scar is there, and this process is known as cicatrization. Okay, so the remodeling of the connective tissue, like I said, the immature connective tissue has to be replaced by the mature connective tissue. So initially immature collagen, type 3 collagen is formed, but then gradually there is interlinking of the collagens and you get the mature collagen, right? So maturation and reorganization to produce a stable fibrous scar is what is known as connective tissue remodeling. Okay, so as the scar matures, there is progressive vascular regression and the highly vascularized granulation tissue turns into the pale avascular scar. And contraction of the scar over time occurs due to fibroblasts, which transform into myofibroblasts. So in wound healing, contraction is very important. So if this gap that you see here, it is the wound, it is the discontinuity that has happened, amari facta. But if I contract it, the gap disappears, right? So you try to seal the gap that is created due to injury by contraction of the cells to seal that defect. So that contraction at the end of the day happens due to transformation of the fibroblasts into myofibroblasts. So moving on to abnormalities in tissue repair. This is one of the easier questions. So like I said, kono kichur beshio bhalo noy, komo bhalo noy. We always seek for a balance in life, right? So the abnormalities in tissue repair can occur, which is seen in wound dehiscence and ulceration. It can be seen if there is excessive formation of the components of repair. That is scar tissue beshi hoye jacche. It is seen in hypertrophic scar and keloids. Excessive granulation tissue can lead to proud flesh or desmoid and exaggerated wound contracture. So like I said, এই যে contract করে যে গ্যাপটাকে মানে ভরিয়ে দিচ্ছে, if it is excessive, it forms under a defect of tissue repair, okay, abnormalities in tissue repairs. So a quick sneak peek. So exuberant granulation tissue এরকম স্কিনের বাইরে চলে এসছে, okay? It blocks reepithelialization and requires surgical treatment, okay? And desmoid tumors, so in microscopy we get something which is full of these fibroblasts and collagen. And inadequate formation leads to wound dehiscence in wound jutche na, thik ache? It can cause these ulcers, you know, arterial ulcers, venous ulcers, diabetic ulcers and all these things. So we can see skin is ulcerated and underneath we have granulation tissue, right, under microscope. Excessive formation of components, we can get hypertrophic raised scars, we can get keloid onekeri sternal region er ekhane thake. It is usually given as, it may be given as a short case in surgery as well, so you'll get to know about it in details, but these are something which happens due to abnormalities in the wound healing process, right? So the next part is fibrosis. Fibrosis is a pathological process which is induced by persistent injurious stimuli, okay? This leads to substantial organ dysfunction and even organ failure. The main culprit in fibrosis is TGF-beta. So you must remember that fibrosis, the pro-fibrogenic growth factor is TGF-beta. And it is seen in, you know, liver, the stellate cells in the liver and all these things. They promote these collagen and myofibroblasts. Okay, so fibrosis is a pathological process. The main cytokine involved is TGF-beta. So growth factors in wound healing and regeneration, if you open your books, the chart is endless. There are tables. The more you can remember, the better for you, but try to understand what you're reading. Like the epidermal growth factors, obviously it will be involved in keratinocytes. The epidermis thake keratinocytes, tar migration, formation of granulation tissue. Hepatocyte growth factor will always, you know, ekta mone rakhlu, you will know that it is involved in proliferation of hepatocytes, okay? So try to at least remember one or two things, if not all. Platelet derived growth factors, obviously it will be involved in, you know, chemotaxis and activation of neutrophils and macrophages in inflammation. Vascular endothelial growth factor, kishu na mone thakle, you can at least say that it is involved in angiogenesis, right? You must know the names and at least one or two functions. Fibroblast growth factor, it will be involved in wound healing and repair. Transforming growth factor, like I said, it is a potent fibrogenic agent, right? It causes wound fibrosis. And it is interesting part is that it is an anti-inflammatory cytokine. It is an anti-inflammatory growth factor. So there are very few anti-inflammatory growth factors, and TGF-beta is one. And also cytokines, like I said, TNF, interleukin-6, all of this is involved in liver regeneration. So these are your friends which kind of monitor the microenvironment for you and helps you overcome the injury, right? So now we come to wound healing. So wound healing, we must know the definition, the classification, the types, the fracture, factors affecting healing, right? So wound is nothing but a break in the epithelial integrity of the cells in your skin, or it can also go deeper, like even involve the bones, right? So healing is of two types. It can either be healing by first intention or primary union, or healing by second intention or secondary union, okay? So what happens is that healing by primary intention is seen when there is a clean, uninfected, surgically incised wound where there is not much cell loss or tissue loss, right? The edges of the wounds are approximated by surgical sutures. So Mr. A, who had an appendix surgery, he will undergo healing by primary intention or primary union, right? On the other hand, poor Mr. B, who suffered a severe car accident, you expected the wounds will be much more. You expected that the healing process will be different. How will it be different? Here, healing will occur by secondary intention or secondary union, which is seen in cases where there is a large wound with large tissue defect. At times it is infected. There is extensive loss of cells or tissues, and the wounds is not approximated by surgical sutures but left open. Okay, so there are two types of healing: healing by primary intention, healing by secondary intention or union. This is a very commonly asked question. You're asked to state the differences between the two. It is a relatively easy question. So in clean surgical wounds with clean margins, where you use sutures for apposition, those wounds will heal by primary intention. Obviously, it happens in the OT under aseptic conditions. তাই জন্য infection and outcome is much better. Infection হয় না. The amount of granulation tissue will be scanty and the complications are rare. On the other hand, large defects, unclean wound with irregular margins that cannot be surgically approximated with sutures, it will have high chance of infections and produce irregular contracted scars and much more chances of complications. So all those wounds where there is abundant granulation tissue to fill the large defect will heal by secondary intention, right? So you need to know what happens at the cellular level for these healings. These are very important questions. These are asked, right? So healing by primary intention, obviously. So it will start with the injury, right? You will have a wound. So this wound will activate your coagulation system. So first what happens is that there is a wound, you bleed, right? But your coagulation system is activated, which tries to stop the bleeding. So there is formation of a blood clot, right? We have all seen that. We have all been wounded at some point or the other. So what this clot does is that on one hand, it stops bleeding, but at the same time, it acts as a scaffold for migrating cells, okay? Next, there is dehydration with a scab covering the wound, and then the main process of repair consists of inflammation, proliferation of epithelial cells, and maturation of the scar tissue, right? So within 24 hours, what are the abundant cells in your blood? The neutrophils, okay? We have read about inflammation, right? So neutrophils will start to release proteolytic enzymes to clear the debris. The basal cells at the edge of the epidermis will start to proliferate, will show increased mitotic activities. Then within the next 24 hours, the epithelial cells from the edges will proliferate to try to seal the gap that has occurred due to wound healing. Is it clear? Day 3 is when the macrophages come. The macrophages play a very important role in wound healing, right? And also the guardian of wound healing, the granulation tissue, makes its entry in day 3. So there is clearing. So macrophages, what does it do? It clears the debris, fibrin, foreign material, promotes angiogenesis, collagen is now evident, and epithelial cell proliferation also continues. Day 5 is when your blood vessels come to action, right? So there is neovascularization, which reaches its peak. Proliferation of fibroblasts and migration also continues, okay? So at day 5, more or less, the epidermis recovers to its normal thickness. There is also differentiation of the surface cells with surface keratinization, and collagen fibrils become more abundant and try to bridge the gap that has occurred, okay? During the second week, collagen accumulation and fibroblast proliferation continues. The leukocyte infiltrate and edema substantially decreases, and ultimately the process of blanching begins. That is, there is increased collagen deposition within the scar tissue and regression of the vascular channel. So the vascular scar will be gradually transformed into an avascular scar, right? By the end of the first month, the cellular connective tissue is largely devoid of the inflammatory cells and covered by essentially a normal epidermis, okay? And the tensile strength of the wound usually increases with time. So this is a schematic representation. If you get a long question, this is there in your books. You can try to draw it. But a quick recap. Day 1, neutrophils appear. Next day, epithelialization starts. Day 3 is when your macrophages and your granulation tissue starts to enter. Day 5, the granulation tissue is also there and blood vessels come into action, reaches its peak, neovascularization reaches its peak. Then in weeks to month, you have tissue maturation and remodeling, and in years, you get the avascular scar. Now, healing by secondary intention, like I said, everything will be excess here. Excess granulation tissue, excess defect, large fibrin clot, more exudates, larger volume of necrotic tissues, and greater potential for inflammation-mediated damage and greater mass of scar tissue, okay? So you can see here in healing by secondary intention, the wound size will be much more. So the damage is much more, and ultimately the collagen scar tissue is very important here. The amount is much more here. The initial phases are the same: hemorrhage, inflammation, epithelial cells, granulation tissue. And the last thing is that wound contracture. So the defect is large here in secondary intention, so ultimately it has to contract to close and seal that gap, okay? So this is your contraction. It is a part of the normal healing process. So it will contract, myofibroblasts are contracting to seal this gap, okay? You can see the arrow, it is contracting. But anything in excess is bad. So severe jodi contraction hoy, an exaggeration of this process will give rise to contracture. It is seen after, serious burns and all. We have seen pictures of burn victims, okay? You can see that these are contracted. So this is also a defect in normal wound healing, which can compromise the movement of joints, okay? So complications of wound healing, we have done with the cases of inadequate granulation tissue. I have shown you pictures of ulcerations and wound dehiscence. Excessive scar tissue, hypertrophic scar, keloid, exuberant granulation tissue. I have shown you what happens if there is excessive wound contracture, the burn victims. There is infection of the wound, there is chance of epidermal cyst, there is chance of pigmentation, and any chronic inflammation or wound can give rise to cancer, okay, neoplasia. So complications of wound healing, this is also a short note that can be asked. Now this is an easy question which is also asked. If you get it, you don't have to remember the names of those growth factors and all these things. So this is easy, you just need to apply your common sense and you can write the answers. Factors that influence tissue repair and wound healing. You can divide them into local factors and systemic variables, okay? So local factors ki hote pare, if you have an infected wound, will it heal easily or will it heal with difficulty? Infection thakle wound healing will be hampered or not? Infection thakle it will delay the process of wound healing, right? Tale infection, mechanical factors, you have not like stabilized the wound, node chore berache. So obviously there is chance of delayed healing. Then poor perfusion, a foreign body impacted at the site. The types and extent of injury, a severe injury holo sarte shomoy lagbe, right? The location of the injury, ionizing radiation delays granulation tissue formation, while ultraviolet light facilitates healing. So skin e onek rog ache jekhane you use UV light to treat that, okay? Then coming to systemic variables, age is an important determinant of healing. So comorbid conditions, if you are a diabetic, okay, diabetic ulcers ekdom non-healing ulcer er moddhe pore, okay? So it will hamper wound healing. Drug history, steroids actually can inhibit TGF-beta. So it also affects wound healing. Nutritional status, vitamin C deficiency, vitamin C is responsible for the collagen, the cross-linkage. Systemic infection, hematological abnormalities. So blood clotting korlo na, so the entire healing process will not even start, right? Next, the last topic is fracture healing. Ekhan thekeo question esche. So this is the last part. Fracture healing can also occur by primary union or by secondary union, right? So primary union of fractures occur when the ends of the fractures are approximated surgically by compression clamps or metal plates, okay? Bony union takes place with formation of medullary callus without periosteal callus formation. The patient here can be made ambulatory early, okay? Secondary union is more common. What happens is that it occurs when the plaster casts are applied for immobilization of a fracture, right? It is a continuous process, fracture healing. It involves procallus formation, osseous callus formation and remodeling, okay? So these are the steps of fracture healing. So immediately after the fracture, there is rupture of the blood vessels and there is formation of a fibrin meshwork. It is the same. It acts as a scaffold for inflammatory cells, your fibroblast ingrowth, the capillary proliferation, and ultimately there is formation of granulation tissue. So any type of wound healing, you will get one term common, that is your granulation tissue, which is the hallmark of healing, right? Then there is release of growth factors which activates osteoprogenitor cells, which stimulates osteoclastic and osteoblastic activity. The first thing that forms in 0 to 2 weeks time frame is the soft tissue callus or procallus. This callus is also a very favorite of externals and examiners. It is asked, okay? So within 0 to 2 weeks of fracture, there is formation of first what forms is soft tissue callus, okay? It provides some anchorage but not enough structural rigidity for weight bearing, okay? You are asked to rest, right, within the first 2 weeks. Next, in 2 to 3 weeks, the procallus, that is the soft tissue callus, is replaced by bony callus, okay? So there is gradually bone formation. Prothome soft tissue formation hoyechilo. Now there is bone formation which stabilizes the fracture site. Next, cartilaginous cells are activated and there is ossification also. This leads to a continuous framework of bone and the newly deposited bony trabeculae in the medulla and beneath the periosteum. Ultimately, what happens is that the fractured bony ends are breached and gradually progressive mineralization occurs. The stiffness and the strength of the callus gradually increases, which allows weight bearing, okay? So, prothom 0 to 2 weeks, there is soft tissue callus formation. Next, 2 to 3 weeks, there is formation of the bony callus. So, bone has to be replaced by a bone, right? Next, in the early stages of callus formation, excess fibrous tissue, cartilage and woven bone is produced. Immature bone ke ki bola hoy? Woven bone. Aur mature bone ke bola hoy? Lamellar bone. ঠিক আছে? So ultimately, a woven bone remodeling হয়ে গিয়ে lamellar bone form করবে. ঠিক আছে? This occurs in from 3 weeks to months. Okay? So gradually there will be remodeling. তো সব কিছুই কিন্তু healing এর ক্ষেত্রে it should end with remodeling. You want a matured, remodeled, thick-tack tissue, right? So remodeling during the formation of lamellar bone, osteoblastic laying and osteoclastic removal is taking place, which remodels the united ends of the bone, and after some times it is indistinguishable from the normal bone, okay? And the healing process is completed by complete restoration of the medullary cavity, ঠিক আছে? Now, factors affecting fracture healing. So, factors affecting wound healing is also a question. Factors affecting fracture healing is also a question. The answer is more or less the same. So, children and young adults it is expected that they will have a near perfect union, right, of the broken ends of the bone. Systemic diseases such as osteoporosis, bath, osteomalacia, those will hamper wound healing and often surgical immobilization is needed, okay? Mobilization is very important in fracture. Sling লাগিয়ে দেয়. So immobilization is very important for proper healing of the fractures so that the two ends, the two broken ends align and meet together, right? So if there is movement of the callus, there is chance of delayed union or non-union. And what happens is that if this non-union persists, the malformed callus undergoes cystic degeneration and the luminal surface is lined by synovial-like cells, creating a false joint or pseudoarthrosis, okay? So these are all important. Then infection is very common. If a wound is infected, it will be a serious obstacle to healing, and malnutrition, skeletal dysplasia and all these defects will also hamper wound healing, right? Complications of fracture healing, this is also a question that has been asked. So fibrous union instead of osseous union, okay? In that case, proper immobilization was not done. Non-union, because কিছু soft tissue থেকেই যাচ্ছে between the two broken ends. তো তাই জন্য বোন দুটো জুড়তে পারছে না. Delayed union, it occurs from causes of delayed wound healing such as infection, inadequate blood supply, poor nutrition, movement, old age. All these cases will cause delayed union of the fracture. Next, I've already explained pseudoarthrosis may be a complication of fracture healing, right? The past questions, various steps of healing. হিলিং বাই প্রাইমারি ইন্টেনশন, হিলিং বাই সেকেন্ডারি ইন্টেনশন, সবগুলোর পাথওয়েজও তোমাদের ইম্পর্টেন্ট। আর ডিফারেন্স একটা চার্ট করে, এটাতে তোমার ক্লিন উন্ডে হচ্ছে, সার্জিক্যাল উন্ডে হচ্ছে, গ্রেটার ডিফেক্টস ওটাতে হচ্ছে। কমপ্লিকেশনস অ্যান্ড ফ্যাক্টার্স অ্যাফেক্টিং উন্ড হিলিং, কমপ্লিকেশন আমি বলেছি বেশি হয়ে গেলে কি হয়, কম হয়ে গেলে কি হয়। আর ফ্যাক্টার্স অ্যাফেক্টিং, লোকাল ফ্যাক্টার্স, সিস্টেমিক ফ্যাক্টার্স, আই হ্যাভ ডিসকাসড দ্যাট। Defects in normal wound healing I have described. Describe steps in fracture healing I have described. Complications and factors affecting fracture healing, that has also been covered. Short note on callus or procallus. Must know areas of today's lecture is the definition, the difference and the description of the processes of repair and regeneration. We had started the class with this. The mechanism of repair by connective tissue deposition or scar formation, this has been covered. Classification of tissues based on proliferative capacity of cells, tinte type chilo, labile, permanent and stable. Short note, granulation tissue, and we must remember that granulation tissue, granuloma are not the same. These are good to know things. You can give it a read. The steps of liver regeneration, angiogenesis, growth factors in healing, I've shared with you the chart. And role of macrophages in healing, try to give it a good read. It may be asked, okay? It forms the backbones of healing, okay? So that's all.